here today just to tell the truth. So hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that.
This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
It's hard to believe how quickly someone's life can change, isn't it? One moment, they're living in the lap of luxury, surrounded by the world's most famous faces, and the next, their name is dragged through the mud, their reputation in tatters, and they're sitting alone in a prison cell. That's exactly the story of Sean Diddy Combs, a man who once seemed untouchable, a king in the world of music, fashion, and media. Now, he's facing allegations so shocking that even his most loyal friends and collaborators have distanced themselves. But while the world seems to have turned its back on him, there's one group standing firmly by his side, his family. The question is, at what cost?
I thought Diddy would be throwing all his celebrity mates under the bus.
I mean, that could potentially be coming when it's time for court and when it's time for him to testify. But what we're seeing right now is how important public relations really are to Sean Combs. He's desperately trying to control the narrative behind bars, allowing his attorneys to do documentaries.
Let's rewind to just 1 year ago. November 2023. Diddy was celebrating his 54th birthday in London, and it wasn't just any birthday party, it was the kind of event that only someone like Diddy could pull off. Picture this, a swanky venue filled with Hollywood royalty. Naomi Campbell, Janet Jackson, and other A-listers were there, laughing, posing for photos that flooded social media within moments. It was a night of glamour, excess, and celebration, all centered around the man who had built an empire from nothing. This was Diddy at his peak, powerful, influential, and adored by his peers.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
Fast forward to November 2024, and the contrast couldn't be starker. Instead of a star-studded bash, Diddy spent his 55th birthday in a Brooklyn jail cell. Gone were the fancy outfits, the flashing cameras, and the adoration of Hollywood's elite. The people who once clamored to be in his orbit were suddenly silent. Naomi Campbell and Janet Jackson, who had publicly celebrated him just a year earlier, deleted their posts about him as if to erase any association. The glittering world that Diddy had created for himself had crumbled, and in its place was isolation and disgrace.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the shoe have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there.
This wasn't just a case of friends stepping back quietly. The silence from his former allies was deafening, almost like a public declaration. Hollywood, an industry that thrives on loyalty when it's convenient, had made its decision. Diddy was no longer someone worth standing by. It's a brutal reality for anyone in the public eye. One misstep, one scandal, and the people who once cheered for you will scatter like leaves in the wind. And in Diddy's case, the allegations against him weren't just a misstep, they were the kind of accusations that could end careers, destroy legacies, and send people to prison for life. But while the glitz and glamour of his old life disappeared, one thing remained constant: the loyalty of his family. Diddy's children Justin, Quincy, Christian Chance, the twins, and even his youngest, baby Love, have stood by him through it all. On his birthday, they posted a video of themselves singing to him, a simple yet powerful gesture of support. Baby Love, not even 2 years old, opened the video with a sweet melody. To the casual observer, it might have seemed like a heartwarming moment, a family rallying around their father in his time of need. But to others, it felt calculated, almost staged, as if the family was trying to control the narrative and remind the world that, despite the accusations, Diddy was still a loving father.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and at the hands of Diddy.
And then there's Chance Combs, Diddy's teenage daughter, who recently took to social media to defend her father. She claimed he was innocent, a good man being targeted by people who wanted to take him down. Her words were emotional, heartfelt even, but they sparked a heated debate. Was she speaking from a place of genuine belief, or had she been shielded from the darker aspects of her father's life? Critics wondered if her loyalty was born out of love or manipulation. After all, Diddy has always been a master of controlling the narrative, both in his personal life and his career. Could it be that his influence extended even to his children's perception of him? The loyalty of Diddy's family hasn't been without its complications. His sons, Quincy, Christian, and Justin recently found themselves in a public altercation with Ray J, who had made some pointed remarks about Diddy's alleged behavior. The confrontation escalated quickly with emotions running high on both sides. It was a rare glimpse into the kind of tension that must be simmering under the surface for Diddy's family. While they've publicly supported him, defending him in interviews and social media posts, the weight of the allegations must be taking a toll. After all, it's not easy to stand by someone when the entire world seems to be against them.
The person that really put their hands on women really is men who have feminine traits. So, it really takes a coward to put his hands on a woman. So, a man is so strong enough, we can just walk away. You can do, there's so many different things that you can do other than get upset, put your hands on a woman. But that comes from a man who's not quite a grown man.
And let's not forget the unsettling rumors that have followed Diddy for years. Stories about his treatment of women, his alleged involvement in questionable activities, and even the circumstances surrounding the demise of Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of his children, have cast a long shadow over his career. While none of these rumors have been proven, their persistence suggests that there's more to Diddy's story than meets the eye. For his children, navigating this murky terrain must be incredibly challenging. On one hand, they want to believe in their father's innocence. On the other, they can't ignore the whispers and the headlines that paint a very different picture. But perhaps the most striking aspect of this entire saga is the stark contrast between Diddy's life before and after his arrest. Just a year ago, he was living in luxury, hosting extravagant parties, and rubbing shoulders with the biggest names in the industry. Today, he's confined to a small cell in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, a place described by many as one of the most dangerous and inhumane jails in the country. It's a far cry from the mansions and private jets that once defined his existence. And yet, even in this harsh new reality, Diddy's influence hasn't completely disappeared. His attempts to secure bail, his legal team's arguments about the conditions of the jail, and his family's unwavering support all point to a man who isn't ready to give up his fight.
Understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on watch.
But the question remains, how much of Diddy's family's loyalty is genuine, and how much of it is influenced by fear, obligation, or even self-preservation? It's no secret that Diddy's wealth and power have provided his family with a life of privilege and opportunity. Could it be that their support is, at least in part, a way of protecting their own future? After all, standing by him means maintaining access to his resources, his connections, and the lifestyle they've grown accustomed to. But at what point does loyalty become complicity? And how far will they go to defend someone who may be guilty of unimaginable actions? As the legal battle unfolds, the world will be watching not just Diddy, but also his family. Their every move, every statement, and every gesture will be scrutinized, analyzed, and interpreted. For now, they remain unwavering in their support, presenting a united front in the face of overwhelming public backlash. But as more details emerge, as the evidence is presented in court, and as the full scope of the allegations comes to light, will their loyalty hold firm? Or will cracks begin to appear in the carefully constructed image of a family standing together against the odds?
So you got to realize he got a lot of money. He still got a lot of money because he's paying these high-profile lawyers to take this case. So in having them to take this case, they're able to construct a lot of information together to making sure that when they go to the courts, they can say, yo, Your Honor, listen here. This is something that's changed. This is something that's new. This is something that's different.
The story of Sean Diddy Combs is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning. The man who once seemed untouchable is now fighting for his freedom, his legacy, and his very identity. And while his family's loyalty may offer him some comfort, it also raises uncomfortable questions about the true nature of their relationship and the cost of standing by someone when the world is watching. As the next chapter unfolds, one thing is certain: the rise and fall of Diddy will go down as one of the most dramatic stories in recent memory. And the truth, whatever it may be, will have far-reaching consequences for everyone involved. It's almost impossible to talk about Sean Diddy Combs without mentioning the whispers, the rumors, and the allegations that have followed him for years, stories that lingered in the shadows of his glamorous life and now threaten to destroy his carefully crafted empire. The man who once seemed larger than life, untouchable in every sense of the word, is now at the center of a storm so big that it's pulling in everyone around him. But here's the question everyone's asking: is this just the beginning? Because if the recent leaks and accusations are any indication, the full truth about Diddy's world might be darker than anyone imagined.
A US judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male workers across state lines to take part in recorded performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
Let's start with the infamous freak-off parties. The name alone has become a sort of pop culture branding, part myth, part scandal. These were no ordinary gatherings, even by celebrity standards. Billed as exclusive parties for the elite, they allegedly started off innocently enough, designer-clad attendees mingling under chandeliers, and A-listers like Jay-Z, Beyonce, and even Leonardo DiCaprio making appearances. But as the night wore on and the casual guests left, the real party began. Behind closed doors, away from prying eyes, these events reportedly transformed into something far more secretive and, according to some, far more sinister. The details of these gatherings have always been murky, but recent lawsuits and testimonies have dragged them into the spotlight. There are claims of luxury hotels and mansions being transformed into private dens of excess, with rooms stocked with items that catered to every imaginable whim. One particularly eye-catching detail from the lawsuits is the discovery of over 1,000 bottles of baby oil during a raid on Diddy's properties. Think about that for a second. What kind of parties require that much? It's a detail that's both bizarre and telling, and it's made the public question what really went on at these exclusive events.
Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
Adding fuel to the fire are the leaked videos. Yes, you've probably heard about them. Clips that reportedly show disturbing behavior at these parties have started to surface, and while no one knows the full extent of what's on them, they've already sparked outrage and speculation. One of the most talked about clips allegedly shows a heated altercation involving Diddy and his ex-partner Cassie. In the footage, Diddy is seen dragging her down a hotel hallway and throwing objects in her direction. It's an unsettling image that directly contradicts the public persona he spent decades cultivating. While Diddy later apologized for his behavior in that specific incident, describing it as one of the darkest moments of his life, it's done little to calm the growing backlash against him. And it's not just the videos that have people talking. There's also the alleged to-do list found during a raid on Diddy's jail cell. According to prosecutors, this handwritten list included instructions to gather compromising information dirt, as they called it, on his accusers. If true, this is a clear sign that Diddy wasn't just trying to defend himself. He may have been actively working to discredit the people accusing him. It's a revelation that has left many wondering how far would Diddy go to protect his empire? And more importantly, who else might be involved in this web of secrecy and manipulation?
Yo, I just got some information myself, man, because it was strange to me that every month he's going up for a bail hearing. And I know that seems strange to a lot of people.
That's where things get even more complicated. Because Diddy wasn't just a solo act, he was surrounded by a network of enablers, collaborators, and yes, even victims. His parties were attended by some of the biggest names in Hollywood, music, and business. And while most of them probably had no idea about the darker side of these events, there's growing suspicion that some guests may have known more than they're letting on. Attorney Tony Busby, who's representing over 100 victims, has even begun sending letters to high-profile attendees, warning them to either settle out of court or face legal action. His argument: that anyone who witnessed wrongdoing and stayed silent is just as responsible as those who orchestrated it. It's a bold claim, and it's putting some very famous faces under intense scrutiny. Among those named in the lawsuits are people you'd never expect, celebrities who were once seen as untouchable themselves. It's been reported that Jennifer Lopez, Ashton Kutcher, Paris Hilton, and even Howard Stern were regulars at Diddy's events. While there's no evidence that any of them participated in or condoned anything illegal, their association with these parties is enough to raise eyebrows. And some, like Naomi Campbell and Janet Jackson, have gone so far as to erase any public connection to Diddy, deleting old social media posts and distancing themselves entirely. It's a move that speaks volumes, especially in an industry where alliances are often more about convenience than loyalty.
Well, Kim Porter, that is Diddy's ex, who's also the mother of his 3 of his children,
Right.
has detailed the alleged abuse that she suffered at his hands.
Oh, no.
And this is all in a memoir.
But not everyone is staying silent. Some former attendees have started to speak out, sharing their experiences at Diddy's gatherings. A former associate who worked as a supplier for these events described them as chaotic and unpredictable. He claimed that while most guests were there to have a good time, there was always an underlying tension, a sense that things could spiral out of control at any moment. Another source described seeing people who appeared to be out of place, individuals who were clearly uncomfortable but stayed because they felt they had no choice. Whether they were pressured, manipulated, or simply caught up in the moment, it's clear that not everyone who attended these parties did so willingly. Then there's the chilling testimony of a woman who claims to have been invited to one of Diddy's events by a wealthy foreign guest. She described arriving at a lavish mansion only to find a scene that was both surreal and unsettling. According to her, the partygoers included a mix of celebrities, influencers, and people who seemed to have no connection to the entertainment world. What stood out most to her, however, was the presence of individuals who seemed far too young to be there. While she didn't witness any outright misconduct, she left the party feeling uneasy and later wondered if she had unknowingly been part of something much darker.
This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
And this brings us to one of the most controversial aspects of this entire saga, the role of bystanders. If these allegations are true, then it's not just Diddy who's responsible, it's anyone who turned a blind eye to what was happening. This is the argument being made by Tony Busby, who says that silence is a form of complicity. It's a sentiment that's gaining traction, especially as more people come forward with stories about what they saw, heard, or experienced at these events. But while the legal battles rage on, the court of public opinion is already making its ruling. Social media has been flooded with posts condemning Diddy and anyone who may have enabled him. Hashtags calling for justice have gone viral, and the once glamorous image of his parties has been replaced with a much darker narrative. For many, Diddy has become a symbol of everything that's wrong with the entertainment industry, a world where power and privilege can be used to mask wrongdoing and silence victims.
It looked like he might get bail. Now you're wondering why I'm saying that. See, they are trying to use some of the things that happen to criminals all the time, or inmates all the time. They always, brother, they always do those impromptu searches.
At the same time, there's a growing sense that this story is far from over. Investigators are reportedly looking into Diddy's wider network, searching for potential co-conspirators, and examining the financial and logistical aspects of his events. There's even speculation that more high-profile names could be dragged into the spotlight as the case unfolds. And with new lawsuits being filed almost weekly, it seems like the floodgates have only just opened. For Diddy, the stakes couldn't be higher. He's not just fighting for his freedom, he's fighting to salvage what's left of his legacy. And while his legal team insists that he's innocent and will be cleared of all charges, the damage to his reputation may already be irreversible. The man who once dominated the music industry, who built a brand synonymous with success and excess, is now facing a future that looks anything but bright.
Not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
No one wants him mentioned.
But for the people who have come forward, the accusers, the witnesses, and even the bystanders who've decided to break their silence, this isn't just about taking down a powerful figure. It's about holding someone accountable for years of alleged misconduct and sending a message that no one is above the law. Whether that message will be heard remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. The story of Sean Diddy Combs is far from finished. And as more details emerge, the world will be watching, waiting for the next revelation, the next accusation, the next twist in a saga that has already shaken Hollywood to its core. So what do you think? Are Diddy's family members truly loyal, or are they just trying to protect themselves? And with all these new leaks and scandals, could there be more shocking revelations on the way? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take. Until next time, stay tuned for the latest gossip.